Now, the one area of directing that doesn't get spoken about much, but it is something that a lot of directors will have to deal with, is directing children.
Mm.
Any tips on directing children? Because I've directed children a handful of times in commercials, and it's fun, to say the least. But I never had to pull a very dramatic performance out of a child or anything like that. Though I've heard some horrific stories of how directors get those performances, which are illegal here in the States, but I've heard them elsewhere. That's been pretty brutal as well.
I know. I think I know the movie you're talking about, but we won't get into that. But
Yes.
yeah. But well, I think people should know that when a child is younger than 7.5 or 8, then if you make them go through really difficult, terrible emotions, they will be damaged. That is the way it is. Do you have children?
I do, and they're about
Yeah.
they're that age range.
So when children are, somebody told me this once, and it just opened everything up. When children are, when they get to like 7.5 or 8, probably, then they start to have an independent imagination. They start to have independent ideation. And they can look around at the world and make up their own mind about what's going on. But when they're younger than 8, everything that comes in is, they're like a sponge. They believe everything. That's why they believe in Santa Claus. They're told they're Santa Claus. I mean, it's very unlikely, right? That
Judith,
there's,
let's lay Santa Claus is real. Let's just put that out
I'm
there.
sorry.
I don't know where this rumor started. It is horrible. Let's just put it out there. I just
Let's
saw.
put an end to it right
Let's
here.
put an end to it. Santa Claus is real. Just in case my daughters ever listen to this. So let's just put that right to this. Santa Claus is real. I'm hoping to get at least 1 or 2 more years out of it. So please.
Yes, yes, Virginia. There's the Santa Claus. So, but they will believe whatever they're told.
Because they don't know any.
And
Of course, yeah.
until eight, it's not a question of, some children are more mature than others. It's wiring in the brain. It's the development of the brain. So if a child is younger than 8, and you're asking them to go through horrible things, they will be damaged. That yeah, so you don't want to do one of my students, Jennifer Fox. She directed this movie that was bought by HBO. It's called The Tale. I don't know if people have heard of it. It was kind of a big deal. And it was about it had to do with child sexual abuse. And the girl was 13, and she'd cast an 11-year-old but she talked at great length how she avoided any possibility of any damage to the girl in these really brutal sex scenes, and or rape scenes, and she did, whenever there had to be scenes, whenever it had to be shot where both the child and the perpetrator were in the same shot, she had an adult body double, and and shot it so that that wouldn't be noticeable. And when there had to be close-ups of the girl's face, it was just the girl, the actor playing the perpetrator, not present, and Jennifer saying to her, "This is like a bee is stinging you."
Right.
That kind of thing. So you know that kind of thing, to take it out of there. So
You got to put it. You have to put it down to their level. You can't say, "Okay, now you're getting raped, and this is the way it is." No. I mean, I know you and I look at it like this is funny, but that's what people will do. I've seen it. I'm like, dude, you can't say that. But to bring it down to the level of the child and just go. And I love that stinging, the bee stinging thing is wonderful. It's a wonderful analogy of it, because that's how you have to direct the child. You have to speak there. If you have to go through 2 levels of language: the actor's language, and then child language. So you have to kind of
exactly,
do both.
exactly. And then you so if people are interested, look up interviews with Jennifer Fox about this movie, The Tale. There's really good stuff there.
Okay.
The other place to look for great advice about working with children is on the extras, the DVD extras of a movie called Rabbit Proof Fence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
I know
Rabbit?
I know that movie. Yeah, yeah.
I am blanking on the director's name. How could that be? This wonderful Australian director.
Yes, it was an Australian film. I forgot the name of it too, but we'll look it up. Don't worry.
Okay, insert it later, okay?
Yes,
Because I don't want I
it'll be
feel
in the
very
show. I'll put
self-esteem.
it in the show notes. Don't worry.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful movie. Well, as you know, since you've seen it, it has three leads, children. Their ages are 9, 7, and 5. That's really
Danger
the
spots.
danger spots. And anyway, he goes into great detail. He does a commentary on the whole show, working with them, and then there's an extra, little featurette about the casting and the rehearsal with them, which is fantastic. Now, some of that there's the 40-minute featurette is on YouTube, so you can find it.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbit Proof Fence, making a featurette, and it's really, really helpful. And as I've listened to it a number of times, and if I boil down what he did, he looked for children who had who could play an objective and who had imagination and who were not afraid of the camera. And that's the main thing. And it took a long time to find them. That's the other thing. If you have a dramatic lead, this was a drama, Rabbit Proof Fence, you must take all the time you need to find your lead. I had read, Beasts of the Southern Wild,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a wonderful movie.
Wonderful film.
And they found that little girl. I mean, you can't imagine anybody else in the world playing that role. Well, the director said in interviews that he met with 4,000 children.
Mm-hmm.
4,000.
Yeah, Kubrick for The Shining, he met, I think, around 4,000 or 5,000 kids at the time as well. I mean, they all do. The good ones. And you have to just keep looking until you find the right one.
I was just listening to, I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody talking about the director of To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. So now, Beasts of the Southern Wilds just a few years ago. Rabbit Proof Fence was, I don't know, maybe
a decade.
10 years ago, something like that. But To Kill a Mockingbird made a long time ago. And what this director used to say for the rest of his life, people would say, "Where did you find those children?" And he said, "I searched for 6 months." So this is something that has always been true, that you have to, to find a child that has the imagination
mm-hmm.
and the commitment. There's an objective. The objective has to do again with listening. It's like, I want something from you, and I'm paying attention to you as to whether or not I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also another element of that is this true connection. As a director, you're looking for a connection with your actors on a different level than just performer and director. Especially with children, there has to be a rapport, there has to be a comfort level, there has to be that intangible thing when you're working. Especially, commercials are different, but if you're working in a narrative scenario, there has to be some sort of thing there, because if there isn't, that's the thing you're going to fall back on when the things get really rough or tough in the scale of just making a movie. That connection, that rapport is so important. I remember watching Spielberg, some behind the scenes of Close Encounter of the Third Kind. If you remember that scene with the little boy, you remember the little boy in Close Encounter, that beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a little boy in Close Encounters, and the the scene where the aliens open the door, and we don't see the aliens yet. We just, the door opens and the little boy is there. And in one, to direct him, Spielberg had one scene, a guy dressed up as a werewolf jump out really quickly, to kind of jar him. And then he was like scared for a second. And then Spielberg jumped out as a bunny rabbit, dressed in a bunny rabbit outfit. And he knew it was Spielberg because he's a director. And he jumped out, and then he just started to smile. And that's how he pulled the performance out of that child.
Oh.
And that's why Spielberg is Spielberg. And he did that back in 77, 76. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like older Spielberg. It was young Spielberg. That's just genius. Now,
I was going to say it's young Spielberg, but yeah,
yes.
Yeah, because he was like a kid himself.
Yeah, and still is to many ways.